over, okay? Up over there is my good friend Delaney. Let's all wave hello to Delaney. Hello, Delaney. She's up there welcoming in some more friends. If you need either of us, please let us know. We'll be happy to help you. If you're still looking for a scene that can fit 4 in green, if you want to come down to the green room, 4 in green, I think the red row or the back row is going to be your best bet. All right, now step by step, I'm going to show you how to do this, but the one thing that we can't give you, I don't know if I mentioned this already, is an eraser, because we don't have them, we don't use them. We want you to draw in a rough sketch style, so no eraser on any pencil, because we want you to focus on those fundamentals. So I'll show you how to do that, but basically the gist of it is you need to draw really, really light, so be messy, be sketchy, and then go back over your lines later, darkening in the ones that you want to keep. So the drawings on the walls here are pretty good examples of that. Light and loose at first, lock in as we go. That'll make more sense once we begin. So you guys ready to draw Randall?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Hi.
All right, so for Randall, for any character, we're going to start with a very light, loose,
Hello everyone,
messy
we are
shape.
here.
And
Hello.
for Randall, we find that a wide
We're here at
oval
Animation
is the way to go. So go to the middle and leave a little mark, about right here. And the oval for Randall doesn't need to be like an exaggerated tilt, but instead of drawing an oval that's kind of laying flat, I'm going to give it a slight tilt to it. The oval I'm going to be going towards is the size of a potato or a lemon, maybe even a bread roll. But the reason why I draw that dot is because I need room for the top of his head. He's got like these antennae, right? And I also want to draw some of his body, some of the neck. Now, drawing Randall, we found, yes, that he's not maybe the most challenging, but there is a level of difficulty to get over, right? So what we're going to do is draw a big parenthesis down the middle of our oval. He's going to be turning his face. He also is a salamander. He's inspired by a prehistoric salamander. So he's got these really wide set eyes. So a letter U left to right in the middle of our oval will help us find that. And how far or how wide the eyes are, it's really up to you. Of course, you can follow along, but I want both eyes to be divided by the original oval. Let me show you what I mean. I'll draw one circle right here, and I do want it to bug out. I want it to break the silhouette. And then this one, because it's farther away, technically it would be smaller, but we don't have to worry about the perspective. We'll draw it the same size, no big deal. So two circles. Now for Randall, we want to establish the head shape, obviously, but I also want to add in a little bit more weight to the drawing. So right now he's missing more to his mouth because he's got a big grin, right? I'm going to go underneath this left side and curve outside of the potato, outside of our oval, and sketch in this really big candy cane. How big, it's up to you, but I'm going to draw a really big, exaggerated, stretched out curve. Because he's got this big grin. Right? I'll draw it right there. Now this one is technically going to push his eye up, so that's why we're physically drawing in front of it. And this is the cheek, but this cheek over here is being hidden behind this right eye. So it's still the same curve, but we're not drawing it in front of it. Instead, it's kind of going to poke out from behind it. Same candy cane curve though. Now, typically, we save locking in for a lot later in our drawings, but for Randall, we want to make more sense of this, because to me, this looks like one of the ants from Bug's Life. That's at least what it looks like to me when I draw it. So I'm going to go back and start to add in some of those details, or rather, fill in some of the silhouette. Now, Randall is one of the main villains of this movie, right? You can consider there to be more, but for Randall, the one we're drawing right now, what's going to make his design stand out is that big smile. So that's what I want to start to tackle next. Now, locking in for those of you that are new means you're going back and you're putting a little bit more pressure on the pencil. So if you look at my drawing, for example, right now, the cheek is the thing that's standing out. I'll also go ahead and start to lock in his eyes because those are another feature that we want to keep. Now, Randall here has, the design of the character at least, tells you a lot about what you need to know about him. Visually, the design should tell you that. That's good character design. We learn that later, Randall is squinting his eye. I mean, maybe eventually it's because he wants to be scary. Maybe he adapted to that. But there's actually a real reason why he squints. You guys remember why he squints? Yeah, because he needs glasses. He has to wear glasses, but he doesn't wear them. We'll get to the eyelids in a second. Let's go ahead and complete the rest of our silhouette. Let's do the same thing on this side. Now, if you're a big fan of this movie, you are a big fan of its director, bless you, because the director of this movie has gone on to direct many films and is now currently the head of Pixar right now, animation over at Pixar. And that guy is Pete Docter. Pete Docter gave the world so many movies. He directed Up, Monsters, Inc., the first Inside Out, Soul. So he knows his way around a good story, right? He's got a proven track record. But what's so great about, in my opinion, about Pete Docter, and really the studio in general, is that they know shaped language. And shaped language, if you've never heard of that before, it's basically, as it sounds, the language of the way that a character looks, how a movie looks, also drives the story forward. So when you compare characters like Sully and Mike Wazowski and Randall, they all look scary, right? They're supposed to. But there's things about their designs that would tell you more. For Sully, for example, he's really furry and he's got a lot of fuzzy hair. He's very soft. He's very rigid, though, too, on the outside. He was top scarer for 11 months in a row, right? That's part of the reason why Randall doesn't like him so much, right? Mike Wazowski, while, yes, he tries to be very scary, but he's not scary, not nearly on the level of those other two, right? He's more comedic. And his design tells you that he's got one big eye. He's really tiny. He's really funny. His personality is really big. So storytelling is really crucial in all aspects. All right, this doesn't look too much like Randall yet, so let's add more. I'm going to go right here on the inside of our first candy cane and draw a little rainbow. We're going to sketch in his smile now. And the hard part about this is that it's a really wide grin, so I'm going to pull a letter U from the smile line all the way down below the cheek to the center of our oval. You can even take a break there. And then curve it down back toward the right side of his face. He's got a big, big, big grin. Now, if you were to leave it like this, I think he would look pretty good. He looks like he's giving us maybe like a cheesy smile, like a smirk. There we go, that's the word I'm looking for. But I'm going to go a little bit farther and draw another letter U on the bottom, and then pull this one far, because I want to show his teeth. Now, the mark of a good villain is, or how they're drawn, right, we just mentioned, and sharper angles are more reserved for the villain types. Even though these characters are supposed to be scary, right, even the good guys, so they do have sharp points on their designs too. But I want to emphasize the teeth for Randall. So on the inside here, I'm going to add in a zigzag. And basically what you're showing is that he does have really sharp, menacing looking teeth. And he needs them, right? Or he uses them as such because he is, again, one of the top scarers too. Big, big, wide letter V's. All right, starting to come together. But for Randall to have him look the way that he should, and you can say this for every character that we draw, the eyes are the most important feature. At least one of. And for Randall, right now, he's looking a little possessed with those blank eyes. So that can help maybe his routine to be scary. But I'm going to give him the character trait that he has, right? Those kind of squinty eyes. We'll draw a rainbow above the cheek. We're basically just mimicking that curve. You just copy it, right? Same thing. We're drawing another one, a third one technically in this case, but again, you want the eyes to be really, really shut. There's just barely any of the eyeball showing. And what we'll do to one side, we'll do to the other. So we've got the squint here. Let's add the same thing on this side. Now the characterizations of these characters, as I mentioned, are unmatched. But we also got to talk about the performances that these wonderful actors provide to the character. Anyone know who voices Randall Boggs? Steve Buscemi. Yeah, Steve Buscemi. He's one of my favorite actors personally. He has a range on him, right? He can play a comedic character. He's in a lot of Adam Sandler movies. He can play a very menacing, scary, sinister kind of character. In some of the movies that he's famous for, we might not be able to talk about, right? They're not the most appropriate. But he's good at what he does, right? And what's so interesting is that Steve Buscemi, the talent that he is, was actually recommended by the voice of the character that Randall probably hates the most. And you could argue who he hates the most, right? But Of course, I'm talking about Sully. Anyone know who voices Sully in the movie? John Goodman, yeah. John Goodman actually recommended to the folks at Pixar to side with him and give him a shot. Of course, he auditioned and he blew them away with his talent. But it's kind of crazy to think about the kind of corner he had in his corner, right? Or the circle that he had in his corner. And all of them are buddies, right? In fact, they played in the same movie together, Big Lebowski movie that I really enjoyed. They're both in that film. Now, as I was kind of yapping away, I forgot to mention that the pupils are going to sit in the corner. But because of the angle that he's in, you could argue where he's looking, right? So for me, it looks like he's going to be looking somewhere here. Maybe he's looking at me. Actually, maybe he is looking at me. But you can have him look in any direction that you want. But what's going to make Randall really stand out, he looks like it now, but we need to add in those antennae. I'm going to go right here on the right eye, next to the right eye, and I want you to draw what looks like a letter L that's not perfectly kind of angled how you would expect a letter L to be, right? Like it's almost a letter L, it's almost a letter J. And he's based off of a salamander, lizards in general, right, reptiles. And the reptiles have, I'm sure there's a scientific name for it, but the beak of their noses, right, their snouts, I guess you can call it. In this angle, you can't see it, but so that's what this line is representing, that it does point. Now, if you've been here before and you've drawn maybe a Goofy or a Pluto, Oswald, the antenna, to me, remind me of their ears. So I'm extending this up and away, but I'm going to add a little C curve right on the ends. Letter C, letter U. And then you'll U-turn back to the top of his head, the top of our oval. But you want these shapes here to kind of thin the closer you get. So it eventually gets really thin. And you want at least 3 of these. So same exact thing, you'll just do 2 more times. Now if you're a big fan of Randall or this movie in general, like I am, I really encourage you to consume other content that's about this movie, obviously, right? That's the obvious thing to do. You can watch the other movies, you can watch the show, in fact, there's Monsters at Work, which, by the way, the team over at Pixar, or whoever was animating it, sometimes they do outsource their animation, they actually studied the way that the control room looks in the attraction that's right here. So what you see in the movie was inspired by a physical running control room, which I think is super cool. In fact, that ride is here for not much longer, though. So if you haven't ridden it yet, or it's been a while, you better do it soon. But you know what? There is a silver lining of sorts, I guess, if you will, because they are getting rid of our ride. But they're putting in a sort of Monsters Land-ish area right in Florida. So I guess losing that will gain that. And then I'll go back and close this space by pulling a curve to meet the eyes. And that will do it for our rough, sketchy portraits of Randall Boggs. But I want to add in a little more. I want to add in his neck, because he looks like a floating head right now. So I'm just going to draw 2 parentheses closer to the back of his neck, the back of his head, rather. And that's about all that we need for a portrait of Randall. He technically has scales all over his body, right, obviously, but we don't have too much time to do that. So we can add in a few circles here and there, just to show that. Sometimes less is more. Alright, here's what I want to do though. I want to have an art show. So on the count of 3, let's have everybody lift their boards and show off their portraits of Randall, yes! And take a look around and see how differently everybody draws. Because not one person is going to draw the same. Alright, so on 3, sign your work, and let's see Randall. Ready, 1, 2. Also, I forgot to mention that Randall was almost voiced by James Woods, the man who does the voice for Hades. Isn't that cool? 2.5. You had an extra second there with that random fact. Sign your name, and 3. Randall. Let's see. We're joined up. Yes, look at that face. He looks so mean. I love this one over here too. You guys nailed it. Yes. Okay, my favorite part by far is always looking at these drawings. He just looks silly, like in the corner, kind of laughing.
How do we do?
Great job all around. I like this one. This reminds me of the movie right there. That one, yeah. All of these do. Look at that grin. He looks so mean. Yours too. He looks really confident. The chin. You guys nailed it. Yeah. Back rows, let's see. Come on, sketchbook. Love, 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 love. Okay, yeah, we gotta give each other a round of applause. What do you say? Yes? Yes. Job well done. All right, well, we got to get ready for our next class. We'd love to have you again for that. But for now, class is dismissed. Bye, guys. Thank you.
How about a nice big round of applause for amazing artist, Manny?
All right, that was Animation
Thank
Academy.
you so
Hope you guys
much,
enjoyed
Manny. Alrighty, friends,
was
your exit
Randall,
doors,
that we
the
did
same
from
two
Monster
doors you
Inc.
entered in through at the beginning of class
Hope
on
you
your
guys enjoyed it.
right-hand
See you guys
side
later
are
tonight
now open
in the
for you.
other live
Please
stream.
do us a
Thank
big
you.
favor before you
Bye-bye.
head out. Prop those artboards back up against the bench with the pencil and the spring so it's the same way it was when you found it when you came in. That